Hey everybody, welcome to The Player's Take, episode 15. I am your host, Justin DeSimone, joined by my co-host, Montrell Rice.
Hey, what's up, everybody?
The Player's Take is our weekly show where we talk about video games, video game news, and other topics pertaining to video games. The show posts at 6 a.m. on Tuesdays Central Time on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Podcasts, your podcast app of choice. If you've listened to the show before and you like the show, please like the show where you listen to it, review the show, and subscribe to the show. We would like to build the audience, so please share it with your friends. This is the second time we are sitting down to record this episode because we lost the audio the first time. So
you can blame Windows on that.
The show's going to be a little truncated because we don't feel like talking about the news twice. So nothing big really happened, honestly. There's a couple things we kept. Well, actually, one thing we kept. One thing we added. We'll get through it. So,
Yep.
Let's start with what we've been playing. Montrell, what have you been playing?
All right, so I reinstalled League of Legends. But before we start talking about that,
Yeah.
we've been playing Devil May Cry. Just started Sekiro. And I haven't played The Division lately. I haven't been playing that lately.
Me either. Dude, everybody at work's starting to get on me about it.
Really?
Yeah, I need you to come back. I need you to come back to mitigate the hate because everybody's like, Justin, you haven't played in like 9 days. What's going on? And it's
I haven't had the desire to come back.
Let's
and play.
get into it real quick because in our initial recording, we kind of finished our review of Division 2. We're going to briefly talk about it again here just to give people our thoughs, but
all right, I can give you like a brief.
Neither one of us really feel like playing the game anymore. Honestly, I'm probably going to play it some more with friends. By myself,
I will play it more with friends. I don't want to play it by myself.
I don't want to play solo. Yeah. I really don't. The solo experience is just not engaging enough.
Yeah.
The AI is unfair when you're playing solo. In a way, it's unfair sometimes when you're playing with other people, but you have other people to kind of as your safety net.
Yeah.
When you're by yourself, if you die, you die.
Yeah.
Like there's no safety net there.
NPCs can't revive you or anything.
No.
So.
So yeah, from that perspective, I don't really want to play the game by myself. With other people, I think it's very fun.
Yes,
I think the combat largely is very good. It has some periods of time where it feels kind of boring when it's too easy, but overall, I think it's good.
Yeah, and that's the part right there. It's either too easy or extremely hard.
Yes,
and
yes.
If you know me, I love hard games, but this game is like artificially hard.
It like lulls you to sleep, where I'm literally in my chair like going. You know, and then there's periods of time where we are getting blasted, like we're getting annihilated. These like we were trying to take a control point at World Tier 4 where you can like level up the control points, and we were at level 3, threat level 3, and the enemies just became. It went from enemies die in 1 clip to enemies don't die in 10 clips.
Yeah,
like they went from not bullet spongy to bullet spongy, and it was really jarring. And I really, it was fun because it was difficult, but at the same time it was kind of annoying.
Yeah, it was fun because, like you said, it was difficult. But when you get I prefer if you're gonna spawn yellow guys, they be the big, slow dudes.
Yeah, the armored dudes.
Yeah, that kind of gives you.
Well, it makes sense, right?
Yeah.
Why they take so long to kill.
Yeah, but when you have like the rusher, the tactical dudes holding their guns to the
freaking
side,
hyenas, dude. The stupid hyena thugs that hold the gun to the side like they're all punk ass. They're just like, yeah, man, I got you.
They are the most
stepping
annoying.
up on you, man.
Yeah,
like,
and they have hella armor, and it's ridiculous.
Yeah, they take way too many bullets. It's absurd.
And I don't like. Which I mentioned last time we recorded, but it got canceled out. I don't like how enemies spawn behind you because their new dynamic spawning they have.
Yes, I think it's a bug, straight up.
Yeah,
because like you said, sometimes you saw it spawn behind me in the
literally
world,
spawn behind you,
like they just materialized out of thin air. And yeah, so I think that's a bug personally that they'll probably fix over time.
Yeah, because I see a lot of people complaining about it.
Yeah, I do too.
Another thing that well, let me talk about some things I like.
Yes.
I do like how there are a lot of activities to do.
Yes.
I like how you get loot, and if the game's about loot and you get it, like I love that aspect because a lot of looter shooters don't get that aspect right.
Yeah, they don't give you enough loot, enough good loot.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
It is a very fun squad-based game. It's very tactical. The AI is very smarter than I anticipated.
Yes, that's one of the better parts of the game.
Yeah,
is the enemy AI.
One part. In the scene, the world is gorgeous. In my opinion.
Oh yeah, they have fully realized Washington D.C.
Yeah,
in a way that. I think I said this last time we talked about this game, but they put other companies to shame with how close to reality they get these locations. Dude, I've been to Washington D.C. and it is stunning how like well realized it is. You know,
it's really small but really big.
Yes, yeah, because they kept that real life like kind of scale to it.
Yeah,
you know, there's a lot of underground locations and subway locations and things like that. So, and there's a lot of buildings you can enter as well. So it doesn't feel as small as it looks on the map. You know.
Yeah, because that's the problem I had with Fallout 4. I never been to Boston, but I can imagine that's not how Boston looks.
Not at all. It was the reason I stopped playing the game, because I was just like, that's not there. That's not where that goes. This isn't next to this. And eventually I was just like, Revere is like one block large, which is my hometown, and it was just like, okay, I'm done. Like I couldn't handle it anymore. So
but another thing that unfortunately disappointed me, which was such a huge success from the first game, was the Dark Zone.
Yes.
The Dark Zone was a big disappointment in this game. It's 3 small areas or 4? Three. And they only hold 12 players. We initially thought they held 16, but they only hold 12 players each.
Which is not a lot of people. Yeah. Especially if you're running up there with a full squad of 4, that means there's only 8 other people.
Yeah. And they could be like, stragglers.
Yeah, singles, which means you're not having real combat experiences. Whereas in the other Dark Zone from the original game, I think it was 32 people.
I think so, yeah.
Maybe more, I'm not sure. But
even if it was the same amount, they hit it well,
It felt like there were people everywhere,
yeah.
dude. Like, it felt very populated. It was really tense. I know that people get mad about the griefing thing, where squads grief singles, and that's not necessarily fun, but dude, there was something about the original game's Dark Zone that is just lost here.
Yeah.
Like, I went in there in the original game and, like, I was scared out of my mind, If I got a contaminated piece of gear that was really good, that I was like, man, I need to get this out, it was terrifying. I'm, like, literally hiding from other players, like, trying not to get shot. The way they did things in this game, the tenseness is gone.
Yeah,
like, it's just, it doesn't feel tense. It feels annoying, frankly.
Yeah, it does. And the gear is not worth it, in
because
my opinion.
You can't just shoot people the way you could in the first one. Like, you have to declare yourself rogue, I think, before you can fire at other players.
Yeah, that's true.
And I don't like that, because it made you cognizant of what you were doing. If you were fighting NPCs with somebody else that wasn't in a group with you, you had to pay attention to where they were, because if you accidentally shot them, you go rogue.
Yeah.
And it was like, and they could just kill you with no repercussions. So you had to be really mindful of what you were doing, and I think they kind of took that away, because you can't even shoot your squad mates now.
Yeah.
Like, we tried shooting at each other, and we did no damage to each other.
Yeah.
So they just consider us like allies, and I don't really like that either, because that's part of the deal, right? That's the whole the role playing element of this area, is that you literally can't trust anybody, even people you think you can trust.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, that's supposed to be the point, right?
They even have like a little what do you call it, echo about that? How when an agent shot another agent in the head. So
yeah, exactly. So I think that's definitely the most disappointing element to the game, is that regression there in design. But I don't have too much else to say. The game's solid. It's worth your time. It's probably the best looter shooter we've gotten since Destiny.
Yeah, that's about a 7 for me.
Yeah, I'm probably at the same point. You're not going to get a great story here, but you're going to get good loot progression and good gameplay.
Yep.
That's pretty much all we can ask for out of these games at this point.
Yep.
Okay. Anything else you've been playing?
And I already mentioned I reinstalled League of Legends.
Well, yeah, you played Devil May Cry 5 too, right? You tried Bloody Palace?
Yeah, I've been playing the Bloody Palace. I got to the highest I got so far. It was 50 last time. I got to 61.
Okay. You plan on trying it some more, or?
Yeah, I just been going in and out.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, is it like a quick thing, like for an hour or two?
Yeah,
pretty much.
Yeah.
Okay. I've been playing Xenoblade Chronicles 2 some more, and I've gotten through the slow part of the story. I think I'm about to hit the big, like, mid-game kind of moment.
That's crazy. You're just not in mid game.
Well,
the thing is,
I've been thinking about this though. I've been thinking about this lately. I'm about level 40 in the game, and usually in JRPGs, the end of the story is usually around 60 or 70. So I don't feel like I'm actually. I think I might be further than I think I am.
Yeah,
I have a feeling some of the back end chapters are shorter than what I've been experiencing so far.
Okay, I can see that.
I think I'm probably further than I probably have been thinking, but I'm excited to keep going.
All right.
So, also got back into Grim Dawn. Only played about 2 or 3 hours of that, but I was kind of scratching this. This is kind of the reason I don't really want to play the Division anymore, because I just enjoy this game way better from a loot standpoint, and character building standpoint. That's why I play ARPGs. I'm probably going to play this a lot more. This is probably the next game that I'm really going to sink my teeth into.
Okay.
So looking forward to that. Anyways, let's get back into League of Legends.
Oh my god.
So you've been playing League, and you've had a bad day. When we recorded on Friday, you had a bad time. But you just told me before we started recording that you won 10 in a row.
Yeah, I won 10 in a row, got to my promos to go to the next division.
Yeah.
And yeah, right.
Well, what changed? Did you just get lucky with your teammates, or you change things up? Are you playing better? Are you just playing really well, or?
I mean, I'm more focused. I don't depend on my team. I don't depend on my teammates as much.
Fair enough. Yeah, you can only do
I tax as a jungler. I tax the lane and I push the lane up. And
I think that's what you have to do. You have to focus on playing the best, literally the best game you can play.
Yeah,
and hopefully that will bring everyone else's level up with you, even if they're not good players. Like, people can play better than their skill level sometimes.
Yeah, so. I noticed in the lower elos, a lot of people are more. They're scared for some reason to when you would try
take advantage of that.
Yeah,
and your teammates, when they see you doing that and getting kills and really helping your mid laner or whatever, that will make them be more aggressive and they'll get more confident, right? So it's you need to kind of just take the lead, right? Eventually you'll get to the point where you can't do that anymore, but once you're at that point, you're where you need to be, right?
Yeah, exactly. So and that's what we're hoping to get to, where everyone's contributing to the team.
Yeah.
It was just I was in my division promos and I lost the promos because you got to win 3 out of 5 to get to the next division, and I won 2 out of 3.
Okay, so you need to win 1 out of the next 2.
Yeah.
Okay,
but now I got to reset and I got to do it again. So
next time you feel like uninstalling League, just go play Dota against some bots. And just feel it out, man. Just feel it out.
All right.
I'll join you. I'll teach you some mechanics. I'll let you pick. I'll show you some characters you might like.
Okay.
Give you some item builds. We'll just get a feel for it, man.
All
Next time you feel like on a song league, I'm giving you an invite to Dota 2. Okay.
All right. All right. I'll definitely do that. It might be coming soon. So.
Okay. All right. If you don't make it to this next league jump or whatever, right? You're gonna get pissed and uninstall again. All right. Let's move on to our truncated news for the week. So a few weeks ago, I brought up a story about Division 2 and how I was trying to get a refund from Sony. Well, Sony decided to wait until after they could say no to me to institute a refund policy in NA.
This is definitely just personally against
Seriously, it felt that way. When I saw this story, I was like, the gods are messing with me right now. They are specifically looking at me and trolling me because, this happened about a month after I was asking Sony for a refund. They've instituted a policy to the NAPSN store where you can now get a refund on a purchase within 14 days of purchase if you have not downloaded it or started it on your you haven't actually started the game yet, or if it's a pre-order, you can get a refund no matter what if you purchased it prior to the 14 days till release point. If you purchase it after that, then the normal 14-day refund policy applies.
Okay, that sounds doable.
So this is a good start. I hope to see a little bit more with this, that they actually let you play the game a little bit, because I think that's fair.
I think 2 hours is cool.
I think 2 hours is fair. Some people will argue that some games are less than 2 hours to beat. Yeah, sure. That's maybe Sony takes it on a case-by-case basis with those games.
Yeah.
But for certain games, I think it makes sense. For something like Far Cry or The Division or something like that.
Yeah.
Games that take more of a time investment. So I don't know much else to say about that. I just wanted to bring it up because, you know, I had a personal stake in the matter.
Yeah, you were pissed about this.
Yeah, I was pretty upset. So this is the story we added. This leak today, there is a rumor going around that there's going to be a Nintendo Direct this week on Thursday that is going to be a send-off to Reggie Fils-Aimé. And this is supposedly going to be a big Direct, too, that it's going to announce a bunch of Switch games and 3DS games for 2019.
Okay.
And kind of give a look for the rest of the year. I'm excited about this in particular because I think we're going to get more Fire Emblem, probably, maybe a little bit more clarity. Maybe a firm... I don't think we actually got a firm release date. I think they just said July. I don't think they actually gave us a date.
I want to say 26, but maybe that's wrong.
I don't think they gave us a date, man. I think they just said July. So
yeah, you're right.
I think we may get a date for that. I think we're going to get some looks on some fall games that they haven't probably talked about yet. And I don't know, 3DS games too. So who knows what we're going to get there too.
3DS games?
Yeah, that's what the rumor was saying. So
they're really not letting that. I mean,
we'll find out.
Yeah, I'm not.
They're going to put that state of play from last week to shame.
Yeah, or maybe they'll show some Joker gameplay because he's supposed to be on Super Smash Brothers.
All right, so that's going to be it for news. Let's move on to release date announcements. Borderlands 3 was announced last week. We got, or actually 2 weeks ago now. We got we got another trailer for it last week. Announcing the release date is September 13th.
Yep.
It's going to be an Epic Store exclusive on PC, which people are predictably extremely angry about.
Actually, they just released a story about it. People are already downvoting Borderlands 3 on Steam.
Yeah, and Steam actually has a system to nullify this now.
Oh, really?
Apparently. Yeah, they can tell when a review is off topic. They can put it in the off-topic category, and it does not affect the overall rating of the game. So if you go look at the Borderlands games on Steam right now, they're still at like 90% positive
or
whatever. So they've actually figured out a countermeasure, and honestly, good on Steam. I know some people are of the opinion this is the only way that players have to lash out and show their dissatisfaction with this, but I think it's just it's a misappropriation of a system that is intended to inform other consumers whether a game is worth purchasing or not.
Yeah.
It's not intended for you to scream how butthurt you are about Borderlands 3 being exclusive to a different store.
Yeah.
That's not what it's for. That you can do that on Reddit, you can do that on Twitter, you can do that on whatever forum platform you want to use, but I don't think Steam is the place. Yes, it's highly visible. It gets in the news. It gets people paying attention to you. I just don't think if you're going to do this, go do it on Metacritic or something. You know, like that's
these raids aren't what I don't like them anymore. Like,
no, I don't either.
Maybe because I'm older now, I don't think they're effective.
I'm just so tired of the story, dude. Like everybody's so up in arms about the Epic Store, and it's like, guys, I guarantee you in 3 years when the Epic Store is a better store than Steam, none of you are going to remember that you were mad about this. Like,
exactly.
It's just I just know how gamers are, and I know how this is going to go. Epic is eventually going to get to the store to a point where it's acceptable as a platform to most consumers, and no one's going to be mad about this anymore. And they're not going to be doing exclusives anymore because they can compete purely off their product.
Yeah, it just has to get there. So.
Yeah. So it's just like I feel like I just have to like kind of grind my way through this period of time now.
It's a lot of stuff we got to grind through this period of time. To be honest with you, it's a lot.
Yeah, the Sekiro thing.
Yeah, this generation has been like a really up and down, topsy-turvy generation.
Yeah. I mean, I understand this dissatisfaction. I mentioned last time we talked about this that I get why people are mad. And they have a right to be angry. It's just. It's getting to a point of like it's over the top for me though. You know, it's getting to the point where it's not like.
I think that's the problem with us.
I'm not with them anymore. You know, it's like
I think that's the problem with us gamers. Sometimes we do have a good case. We start out really good,
and then we go too far.
And then we just go too far.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, pretty much. So, anyways, outside of that, Borderlands 3, I am personally extremely excited about this game. They are doing everything. Looks like they're doing everything I want. They're announcing new changes to gun companies in the game. So you know how every gun would spawn and it would have a company attached to it?
Yeah.
And they make a specific type of gun. Like Malawan are the elemental guns, and Atlas guns are generally like the heavier, like assault rifles and things like that. And what was it? TDR are the ones where you reload them and you throw the gun and it digitizes a new gun for you.
Yeah, I like that.
They're making changes to all these. So the TDR ones, you know how you had to like kind of manually aim them when you were reloading to throw them?
Yeah.
Now they will home in on their target.
Oh, okay.
Which is awesome because those are a pain to hit anything with. So they were terrible guns generally.
Yeah.
Atlas, I believe you're going to have different firing modes now. So you're probably going to get auto fire, single fire, burst fire, things like that.
Okay.
Malawan, they said that they're going to be able to allow charged shots, so you can hold like almost like Mega Man kind of thing, and multiple elements on one gun.
Okay.
Which is a cool change. So they're making small little changes like that. They're also making changes to the skill trees. I don't think there's going to be 3 skill trees anymore. I think it's going to be one big skill tree that you can kind of branch off in different paths on, which sounds like a good change. Also, the characters are going to have multiple action abilities, which is a first for Borderlands. Usually, they only have 1 per character, and you make variations on that ability with your skill trees. Okay. It sounds like every character is going to have at least probably 3, maybe 4 per character, which is a really cool change. That's exciting. And also the story. They mentioned that so Borderlands 1 was very subdued. It was a very subdued game. It didn't have a big story. There wasn't a lot of story in it, and even the story that was there was kind of low key. It wasn't like over the top. Borderlands 2 went completely the other side of the spectrum, which was really over the top, super memey, like in your face, like trying to make you laugh constantly. Yeah. And some people didn't like that. I personally loved it. I thought it was really good. But it seems like they're kind of Randy Pitchford has said that they're kind of dialing it back, kind of more towards Borderlands 1, like not necessarily all the way, but maybe kind of in the middle.
Nice
of the two.
Middle ground.
Yeah, which is good actually. I think Borderlands is in a good place when it's serious but still kind of funny at the same time, like trying to like self-aware that it is what it is, that it's goofy and weird. So I'm excited about the game, man. It's encouraging me everything that I'm hearing about it. So, yeah, I mean, you got any thoughts? Are you excited to play it?
I am excited to dive into it. I mean, I heard a lot of good things about the franchise.
Yeah.
So, I never really wanted to play the franchise. I never really had anyone to play it with. So,
yeah.
It would be cool to play the Handsome Jack collection.
We'll
get
like you into Borderlands 2 at a bare minimum, probably.
All right.
Whether that spawns a love for Borderlands or hatred for Borderlands is to be seen, but... we'll find out. Okay, next story. This one's funny. The yearly Assassin's Creed leak has happened once again. Kotaku actually found this in Division 2. There's some. I didn't read through the whole thing, but there's a tease in Division 2 that mentions Valhalla.
Yeah, I saw that.
And yeah, people think that is a tease of the next Assassin's Creed game. Well, Kotaku ended up writing an article about it. They have sources that have confirmed that it is probably going to be a Viking game. The next Assassin's Creed is not coming out this year, but next year, 2020. They're taking another year off, which I think is a good call on their part. But yeah, it's going to be a Viking game, which I think that's a cool concept.
Yeah.
That once again is going to allow them to use their ship combat that they seem so enamored with. They'll be able to do that again.
Well, I mean, you like the ship combat in Assassin's Creed the remaster?
I mean, dude, there was ship combat in Assassin's Creed 3?
Yeah, that's where they got the whole idea from.
Is that the first game that had it? I thought it was 4 that had it. So 3 had it, but it was terrible. Yeah. And then 4 made it good?
Yes.
Is that what
that's
what
exactly
happened?
What it was.
Okay.
3 had it because you were fighting like you were in the colonial times.
Yeah. Okay. Well, a Viking setting is cool. I need to get through Odyssey, which is probably not going to happen before this game gets out.
I got like 25 hours
in the game. 20 hours in
it.
I'm nowhere. It's crazy. The game is huge. So, but what do you think about the Vikings setting? You like that?
Yeah, actually, that sounds pretty interesting.
Yeah.
I want to say it's way better. I'm still waiting for them to go to one of the Eastern Asian countries, though.
That would be cool, man.
I know they said they never wanted to go to Japan. I don't know why. That was like when they first made Assassin's Creed, and they were doing like people noticed they were doing different countries.
Yeah,
I do remember one of them saying they never. It was an article.
Well, they are European studios. So it just may not be of interest to them.
The thing is, they did a side game on China.
They did.
The
side scroller Chronicles or whatever it's called.
2.5D scroller.
Yeah.
So. I mean, they may go there, but after the Vikings, where else could you think they can go? Maybe
back to Rome. Maybe
okay.
do like a full-fledged Italy game.
Okay.
I could see them doing something in the Middle East.
I was going to say that. Yeah, maybe
like,
in the Middle East,
Israel or something.
That would be cool.
Maybe India. Not necessarily like Asia proper, like China, Korea, Japan, the way we normally think of Asia, but like India would be interesting. Maybe.
Okay.
You could do something with like the gods there, or Buddhism or something like that.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
I could also see, something in, because they did Industrial London, right, with Syndicate.
Yes.
Okay.
And Rogue, I believe.
And Rogue. Okay. And Black Flag was like Pirates, the Age of Exploration.
Yeah, pretty
right?
much Jack Sparrow, Pirates of the Caribbean type deal.
Fair enough. I mean, dude, I'd love to see something in the modern day too.
Yeah,
modern day U.S., like New York or something.
I'd like to see something maybe in like the 1940s or 50s, around that time.
That'd be interesting.
Or maybe like around Vietnam,
or
the 70s.
In a Western setting. I know Red Dead Redemption 2's kind of got that on lock, but putting an Assassin's Creed spin on it, maybe.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Be interesting. So they have a lot of things they could still mine there, and then they could go even further back too. They don't have to stick with making Greece the furthest back they go.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, or Egypt actually was the furthest back they went, right?
Egypt. I believe so. Yeah. Yep, you're right.
Yeah. Okay. Well, they have a lot of options, so they still got plenty left in mind. We got 20 more years of Assassin's Creed games, right?
They may have to go to Japan at some point.
They're gonna have to go to Japan. Come on, dude. How do you not want to go to Japan? Oh man, it's perfect for an Assassin's
take that
Creed
into the
game.
future, like a future, or in the modern setting, but like futuristic. Their version of the future. In Japan, that would be pretty cool.
I could see that. All right, moving on. Octopath Traveler, which is a Switch exclusive, looks like it is coming to PC.
We knew it. We knew Square couldn't keep their hands from the money.
Hey man, why? Why not? I mean, dude, this game. Why does this game have to be stranded on Switch? Come on, like let it be on PC. That's a good place for it. Yeah. It's not a bad place for it. I'd love to see it on the other consoles too. I doubt it happens though, but
it might happen. Knowing.
Well, it depends on what their deal with Nintendo was, honestly, whether it comes or not, and how long of an exclusive it was. So we'll see. I like the game; it was solid. I'm sure they will make good money off this. And the PC audience actually loves JRPGs, so it's a good place for these games. So, okay, moving on to the list of releases this week. Things of note. For me, Shovel Knight, King of the Cards. This is the last expansion they're making for the original Shovel Knight game. I think after this, all their Kickstarter promises are fulfilled, and they can move on to something else. So I'd love to see what Yacht Club can do next, whether it's Shovel Knight 2 or something else entirely. I imagine they're sick of Shovel Knight at this point.
Yeah, probably.
They've been making these games for like 5 or 6 years. But
I'm really looking forward to Phoenix Wright.
Ace Attorney Trilogy HD.
And this is a kind of a guilty pleasure of me and my friends. We used to play Earth Defense Force a lot.
What is this game?
It's a trash game. It's so bad. It's
trashy?
so bad. Yeah, it's like a horde shooter.
Yeah.
And you can just
play, like a twin stick shooter?
Not a twin stick shooter, but it's a third person.
Oh, okay.
And you're just shooting like giant bugs that come out the sky and trying to attack Earth.
Okay. Yeah, last one to know probably is Hellblade on Nintendo Switch. That's an interesting one, considering...
I wonder how that game's going to look.
Yeah, it's also interesting considering Microsoft owns the studio now. So...
that's that Microsoft Nintendo connection.
This could have been in the works before they were acquired, maybe.
Yeah, probably.
I don't know. Also, Nintendo Labo VR kit. There's been confirmed that there's going to be a Mario Odyssey hook-in and a Breath of the Wild hook into this VR thing.
Why?
Whatever that means.
Why are they pushing this?
I don't know, man. I don't know. Labo, it's a weird thing. It came out last year, and it's cardboard. They're selling you cardboard. Literally cardboard.
Yeah.
And it's like $80. Actually, this is probably more, honestly. But yeah, it's just like literally cardboard, If I had like a rabbit, it would eat this if I just left it laying around. Dude, like, rabbits love cardboard, man. They love cardboard. They just, because they, you know, all they want to do is chew on things all day. Because their teeth are, like, constantly growing, so they just need to chew constantly. Okay. And, yeah, cardboard is, like, one of their favorite things because it really, like, pares their teeth down. Okay. But, yeah, so they would just munch through Labo. I'm sure that's happened to somebody, actually. Somebody bought Labo for their kids, and then they have a rabbit, and it just murdered their Labo kit. Oh, my God. Okay, moving on. Topic of the show. We got here quickly, so we're going to talk about it for a while. There was a huge expose by Kotaku's Jason Schreier last week on BioWare's Anthem. The title of the article is How BioWare's Anthem Went Wrong. We're not gonna go through the whole article. We're probably gonna just speak on major points we want to talk about.
This is a huge article.
It'll
probably take about an hour to read.
I think it's like a 10,000 word article. It's insane.
Yeah.
Like it's huge. Worth a read. It took me an hour to read, honestly.
It took me about an hour to read.
But absolutely worth your time if you're interested in Anthem and kind of what went wrong. I don't think it's kind of along the line of what we thought. There were no reboots. Okay, so let's just go over it.
Yeah.
So basically, the reveal here that Schreier kind of got was that Anthem was basically in pre-production for 5 or 6 years.
That's only supposed to last about maybe a year.
Yeah, if that. Yeah. A lot of the time. Pre-production generally is you're just ironing out your major ideas.
Yeah, you're throwing shit at the wall and see what sticks.
What you want the game to be from a gameplay standpoint, determining what the world is, the lore, the storyline, and all that. All the kind of main things you need to make something, right?
Yeah.
That's what pre-production's supposed to be. They were in pre-production for 6 years. And I mean, man, so the game came out February 22nd, 2019. We saw it first time at E3 2017. That was the first time we ever saw it. And according to this article, that video was complete and utter bullshit. Not a surprise. It's about what I expected.
Yeah.
But to hear it, and it's basically... I mean, I take it as fact. I mean, he had like 19 sources or whatever with this article.
This is not only bad for Anthem, but I think this is going to shake up the whole game industry as a whole, how they approach E3
I hope so. Because, dude, yeah. So that was basically fake gameplay. Like, they stitched that whole thing together. The only thing in there that was real was really the flying and the shooting. Like, those were the only real elements in that trailer. Everything else was kind of just made up, like, specifically for the trailer. And I mean, according to Jason's story, like a lot of the developers saw the video and they were like, "That's the game we're making."
Like, they didn't even know. First time seeing this game.
They didn't even know, really. Like, they still didn't know what the game was at that point in time. And after that, they started working on it, but they were still twiddling their thumbs up through like September, October of 2017.
Ridiculous.
And they had one working mission at the beginning of 2018. Like a year, like 14 months before the game is coming out, they had one mission working. So they built the rest of the game in 14 months, basically. And that explains why the game is so lacking in content.
And honestly, one of the developers said he doesn't even think it was 14 months. He said maybe...
Might have even been less, 9 to 12.
9 to 12, 6 to 9 months, he said, I think I read.
And given that, it's impressive what they got in there.
Yeah, I am impressed by that.
Because it's actually a completed game. Like, it has a beginning, middle, and end. As bad as it is, it's there, though. It's not like it doesn't just end, like, you know, in the middle of the story. Like,
the voice acting is there. The mocap is there and everything of that nature. I mean, it's pretty good. The mocap is pretty good.
Yeah. Which there were some other issues with that, though. They didn't have time. They didn't have time to redo the mocap, so they had to keep what they had, even if it didn't make sense with the story.
Yeah,
like they basically had to keep lines in there that were not consistent with the story they were telling anymore, and that's why there were story discrepancies in the game too. So it's just this. I don't know. This situation is like. I don't even know how to approach talking about this because it's just so massive.
It's so huge. I mean,
what do you want to start with, man? Where do you want to go first?
Actually, I just want to start with, like, BioWare themselves. So when me and Justin were talking about BioWare, and a lot of gamers themselves know BioWare. We know BioWare for these, not necessarily massive games they make, but these games that have very intricate stories and things of that nature. So this is like the first game they made that was like a looter shooter-esque type game.
Yes.
And even if it was like, we expected the story to be there. The thing is though, with BioWare, they clean their shit up well. Like, they fluff their shit. Like, they can present a piece of poop on a platter to you, and you're like, man, this looks like a really nice chocolate cake.
Yeah.
Because what comes to find out is that they did this with all their other titles, from the Mass Effect trilogy to the Dragon Age games, that were all critically acclaimed, except for, the last Mass Effect game. They were all critically acclaimed. And that was in part due to the BioWare magic. So if you don't know what the BioWare magic is, like we didn't know.
Oh, it's so gross.
They wait until the last minute a game needs to come out, and then they put their team into crunch mode, which means they ramp up everybody to 60 to 70 to sometimes 90-hour weeks working on these games to push something out. And unfortunately, I don't know if I should say unfortunately or fortunately, but unfortunately it has worked in the past where we got, like I said, those critically acclaimed games.
Well, I mean, one of the developers in here said that they were wishing
Dragon
Age failed because that game was made under similar circumstances.
Exactly.
Where it was put together in 12 to 18 months, and it ended up coming out and actually being critically acclaimed. They were hoping that it would fail, so it would kind of prove to their management that the way they do things is just not work, like it won't work anymore. But eventually, with Mass Effect Andromeda, it happened, and now this game, it came to a head.
It finally came to a head,
and it reared its ugly head in a way that is really bad for BioWare, because, I mean, the thing is, knowing this now, why would you want to work for this company, dude? Like,
why? Can you imagine working on something for so long that you want it to fail? I know. Like, dude, it's that bad.
How awful is that?
Yeah, just the projects that we work on at work. I can't even imagine us like, man, I just want this shit to fucking fail. You have to be really, really
depressed and really cynical about everything happening.
So that leads us on to another thing: the depression that was in the office. People had to take work leave because they were so depressed to work on this game.
Well, not only that, people that weren't taking work leave were literally finding
rooms to cry in.
Rooms where no one else was in, just so they could close the door and cry, break down, basically, have a mental breakdown, because that's how stressed out they were. And there was this term in the article that many of the people mentioned, that they were quote unquote stress casualties at BioWare. And dude, that term is such an ugly thing. It sounds so ugly. Stress casualty? Like, dude, what?
And especially
what kind of work environment are you fostering that people are like this, that this is happening to them,
And especially with our generation now, with the millennials, how we're very conscious of mental health awareness.
Work-life balance.
Yeah. And for us to go through this, or to see this at a work environment where they kind of foster it and kind of like, hey, you gotta do it. It's very gross. Like,
it is.
Mental health is taken a lot seriously nowadays. So I don't even think EA knew about this, and that's another thing.
Dude, using the term BioWare magic too to foster this is ratchets up the grossness.
Yes.
Too, like, dude, it's bad all around. Yeah, and yeah. Like I think what you were about to say is like EA seemingly didn't know
anything about
what was happening.
So we can't blame them.
Well,
okay.
Okay. So yeah, let's get into this part of it, because I think a lot of people came out of this article. There were kind of two camps forming.
Yes.
There was the camp basically that, the generic EA bad, they're the reason this is broken, they forced Frostbite on BioWare, blah, 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 it's their fault. Then there was the other side of it. I think a lot of people kind of came to the realization that EA was not as much at fault as they would normally assume.
Yeah.
Right? The thing is, I think there's kind of there's no spectrum in there, though. There just seems to be one side or the other, whether you hate EA or you think EA is not the problem. But I'm kind of in the middle, where I think the fact, if EA truly did not know what was happening inside this studio for 5 years, and they own them.
Yeah,
and they don't know what's happening, and they don't know what the hell BioWare is doing.
Yep.
That is terrible management.
That is.
What are you doing? You're not visiting the studio and seeing what they're making, and frankly. If you're going in there, and if you are going every year, and they somehow fooled you into thinking something productive was going on, shame on you.
Yeah.
Like, you need to be more discerning than that. Like, you need to... like, dude, if I was an EA executive, and I was going to BioWare or DICE or whoever to get an update on one of their projects, dude, I'd want to know a lot. Like, what's your overall project status? Like,
exactly.
Like, how far along in the project do you think you are? Show me a completed level.
Yes.
You know, I want to know all that.
Outline.
I want to play the game. You know,
exactly.
I mean, I know a lot of these suits aren't actually gamers, so it's like they're not that involved, but they need to be. That's the problem, is they need to be.
We had that discussion before.
Yes.
How the suits need to be gamers or developers themselves,
because they need to be asking these questions. Dude, you cannot let a studio like BioWare. You're paying their payroll for 6 years, and they're just fucking around.
Literally, these people.
Are you talking
read this
about?
Article, they were literally fucking.
It's like they could have been playing solitaire for 6 years. Like, are you kidding me? Get me that job. What are you like? What?
So
like it's wild to me.
So, you know, of course, EA, their whole company, or everyone company wide, which is like a company mandated thing, are using Frostbite engine.
Well, so yeah, I want to. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I'm just gonna touch on that because you mentioned it with EA in regards to EA and how they're at fault with this.
Yes.
So, well, they weren't. It comes out that the article of actually like 2014 or something like that came out, or a couple years ago.
It was mentioned in Schreier's book, I think, what you're about to say. But
okay.
Yeah. Go ahead.
That it was actually BioWare that wanted to use this engine.
Yeah, it was in his book when he talked about Dragon Age Inquisition.
Yeah, so it was actually BioWare who wanted to use this engine. Not only that, but BioWare had tools in place already made from the previous games they didn't bring onto Anthem.
Yeah,
they wanted to completely recreate the engine for this game.
They spent a ton of time with Dragon Age Inquisition and Andromeda creating tools specifically in Frostbite to help make those games.
Yes.
Naturally, you think you would take that work with you and go forward with that and use that for future games, right? Well, no. Apparently, the leadership at BioWare decided they wanted to start from scratch with Anthem for whatever reason, so they ended up having to rebuild a lot of stuff in Frostbite again just for Anthem, and that's it. I mean,
so now here's where EA comes into fault at, because EA has a special support team for Frostbite.
Yeah.
The thing is, the support team's pretty small, I'm assuming, and
they have a lot of studios.
They have a lot of studios that use this Frostbite engine. Mm-hmm. So what EA does, I'm assuming, is they have a priority list within that support team, which is with any support team, you have a priority list. Of course. And the companies that make the most money, like the companies that work on FIFA or companies that work on DICE, they naturally make more money, so they get more support. It's not like a favoritism thing; it's just a priority thing. So when it comes to BioWare needing help, sometimes the team wouldn't get back to them for weeks on how to do certain things,
which isn't fair.
It isn't.
EA has to do better about that if that's going to be.
And that's where EA messed up, in my opinion.
Yeah. Well, I will say too, going back to the BioWare thing. I know that this is kind of taken at face value that BioWare said that they wanted to use Frostbite. I do wonder how true that is, because EA specifically had a initiative of like close to 10 years ago, 8 or 9 years ago, where they wanted all their studios to use Frostbite. I'm sure they asked studios first, and I'm sure like BioWare may have said yes, under the assumption that if they say no in a couple of years, EA is just going to force them to do it anyways.
Oh, okay. That's what you're saying. Yeah.
So I don't know how true that whole thing is. I don't want to fully exonerate EA for that part of it.
I just think it comes down to leadership, though. Like, you need to be a firm leader. I'm like, hey, we know how to use this engine better.
I agree. I agree.
And the only reason this is kind of after that mandate, a couple years later after that mandate, but Respawn uses the Source engine, their own version of the Source engine.
Yes.
They don't even touch the Frostbite engine.
Yes.
And they made 3 games that are really successful off that engine.
And it's interesting, the way EA comes off in the story, it makes me feel like they actually respect BioWare a lot more than we think.
Yeah.
Like, because, dude, they seem really hands-off until towards the end when they needed to kind of step in and do something. And because there was that moment in 2017 when Patrick Soderlund, the prior EA, I think he's the CEO or president, one of the two of those. But where he came in and played a demo that they had done for 2016 Christmas.
Yes,
and the flight wasn't in the game at this point in time, and he played it and he hated it. He was like, "This isn't the game I wanted." So they spent like 3 months specifically making a demo for him that would end up being the basis for the trailer that happened at E3 2017 that had Flight, and he played that and he loved it. So they ended up putting Flight back in the game because of that. And I mean, a lot of people are spinning this as positive for EA, that like, wow, they saved this game, they put in a feature that the game really needed. And it's like, to me, it's like, yeah, but they just kind of haphazardly fell into that. Like, it's like if that had same events had happened and the flight was shitty, like it just so happened to be good. They so happened to do the right thing with it. So, but
I just want, I don't think the article really touches on. I want to know how much time they spent on the flight in combat.
I mean, it sounds like a lot, dude.
Because that part is really fluid in the game.
Because the article does touch on the fact that Flight, as a mechanic, came in and out of the game several times within this 7-year period. And the fact that a core mechanic of the game was not in the game like 2 years prior to release is nuts. Like what? Like what? What was going on over there, dude? Like, this is how like wishy-washy they were being about it. They didn't know if they wanted a Flight in the game. At first, they didn't want the game to be a looter shooter. It was supposed to be some like multiplayer survival game, which sounded way more interesting.
Yeah, it did actually.
But then some of the mechanics, as they started trying to tool around with stuff, like the consoles couldn't handle certain things they wanted to do, so they had to pare some of the features down, and then eventually they pared enough things down where it just kind of turned into Destiny. However, they didn't want like leadership specifically did not want them to take things from Destiny, because for whatever reason they perceived that to be negative. So they wanted them to take things from Diablo 3, which for some reason they didn't perceive to be negative. I don't understand what their thought process was with this.
Right, so
because
I'm under the impression I actually like this approach they try to do. The reason why when I played the game, I'm like,
yeah, you said several times.
I'm like,
it feels like an ARPG, right?
This feels like an ARPG game. This does not feel like a Destiny type game, and I really hope the game doesn't go in that direction of Destiny-esque.
Yeah.
And I didn't like how everyone, just regular gamers and everything like that, not necessarily the media or anything like that, but I didn't like how everyone was like, "Oh man, the guns are shitty," and I'm like, well, the whole point of it is not the guns, it's the abilities.
Yeah.
Now, granted, they could have had more like melee weapons for like the interceptors or something like that.
They should have had more guns. Yeah. Though. They only had 3 weapons per weapon type. That's unacceptable.
That's true.
I don't care if weapons are your focus or not. That's crazy. They're a loot item in your game. You need more. You need more variability than that.
Yeah, you're right.
So, but yeah, I understand what you're saying. I can see where they took influence from Diablo 3, but the thing is, like, Destiny is an example of a rehabilitation within the genre, and you don't want to take anything from that.
That part, I can understand why people.
I mean, that explains a lot of the problems with the game. That the way the story is presented, the issues with the hub, like.
So let's get to the story and how it's presented and how they didn't listen to their staff.
Yes. Yeah, so BioWare used to be 3 studios: Montreal, Edmonton, Austin.
Yep.
Montreal got closed after Andromeda's fiasco.
And that became EA Motive, I believe, right?
Most of them joined Motive.
Okay.
And I think the rest of them either were let go or went to other parts of BioWare.
Okay.
So now BioWare has 2 studios: Edmonton, Austin. Edmonton is the original BioWare home proper. That is the main studio that started it all.
AKA the A-Team.
Well, we're not saying that. The article mentioned that there is a feeling within BioWare, that particularly BioWare Austin, that Edmonton views themselves as the A-Team.
That's why I said that.
Yeah, I know. I'm just explaining things for people. That BioWare Edmonton views themselves as the A-Team, and anybody else that isn't part of that team is like lesser than.
Yeah.
And this played out where BioWare Austin, a team that has made an MMO, Star Wars The Old Republic, whether you think that game is successful or not,
it's still
alive right now.
Yep.
It has plenty of people that play it. There's a lot of people that like it. I thought the game was good at launch. It's just not a good MMO. It had a very good story, though. It had that BioWare structure to it. But they likely learned a lot from making that game, from making a live online game, right? So you'd think naturally you'd want to talk to them and be like, hey, what did you guys learn that didn't work? What worked for you guys? What do you think we should do? No, that's not what happened. Edmonton, Austin, once they got brought into the development of Anthem, they started making suggestions based on what they know from making Star Wars The Old Republic and things like that, and things they learned from that. And Edmonton, for the most part, just ignored everything they said.
Everything.
According to this article, mostly ignored everything they said. Didn't take any of their feedback on, and a lot of their feedback were the things that we criticized, us too, and then many others online criticized with this game after it came out. Austin was saying it 3 years ago.
Yes.
Like 2-3 years ago.
So there's certain parts in the game where you're in Fort Tarsus, which we all hated Fort Tarsus if you listen to our previous podcast, where you talk to people and you have choices to make and things of that nature. Well, the thing is, me, Justin, and our friend Jet, we'll be online, and we're not paying attention to the story, because we're all talking in a party. We're talking,
we're hanging out, we're shooting the shit, right?
And we're rushing each other to get through. And they literally said that in the article, hey, other players are going to be rushing other players to get through so they can hurry up and play.
Yep.
So the simple fact that they didn't listen, the leadership didn't listen at all, is mind-boggling to me. Mm-hmm. Another thing about leadership is they had certain meetings and things of that nature with their teams on discussing, breakdowns and plans and going through play-by-plays and what we should do next. And as a leader, you're not a dictator, in my opinion. A good leader knows how to listen to their staff and pick which ones.
Also voluntarily includes them in the discussion.
Exactly.
Right.
And in this case, if you ever worked on a team project or anything, you know that you have to listen to your team and decide what's best for your team. But most important is feedback. These guys unfortunately had a stick up their butt. They did not listen to their developers in general. The developers would give them suggestions. They're like, okay, we'll get to it, and the meetings will end without a conclusion.
That was the theme for the early development of Anthem. And when I say early, the first 5 years is what I mean by that. For that period of time, according to this article, a lot of it was a lot of meetings were like that, where they would talk for 30 minutes to an hour and nothing would come of it. There would be no decision made on a mechanic or a story element. They just talk about it and they would just leave. And I mean, I'm sure many of you who've worked in the corporate world before have had meetings like this, where you talk for an hour and you have no idea what the deliverables are based on that talk, what you were talking about. It's happened to me many times at my job. And so those things show a really broken structure at BioWare. The things are really screwed up, and it's continuing to meet out in two ways. It seems like Edmonton. This article mentions that Edmonton has they're not working on Anthem anymore. They're now fully in pre-production on Dragon Age 4.
How long is that going to last?
And they've just given Anthem to Austin. They just given Austin this pile of poop, and they're like, make this not a pile of poop anymore. It's like,
and I feel bad for that.
How horrible is that relationship? Austin must hate Edmonton right now because, dude, you're imagine, right? Yeah. You're working on something. You're not working. This isn't your game. You're working on someone else's game within your company.
They brought you in to help them.
They brought you in to help them, and you're telling them things that are wrong with their game that you think they should fix, that you are positive are going to be negative, criticized elements of the game when it comes out. They ignore you. They push forward anyways. The game comes out. It's a pile of garbage. Everybody hates it. And then they're like, you know what? Here, you fix it. You have all these ideas. You fix it. It's like, how terrible is that? It's like that's an awful relationship. And so I feel really bad for Austin, dude. Like, they come out of this just like such super sympathetic figures to me. Like,
I think this article in general is very sympathetic towards them, despite what BioWare, how BioWare feels about it.
Yeah,
I think it made me feel bad for like the BioWare team, even the people
in Edmonton too. I'm sure not everybody feels this way about Austin, right? But the second thing I want to bring up is their response to this article. Both of them. The public one and the non-public one.
I didn't hear the non-public one.
So the public one came out prior to the article posting because Kotaku sent BioWare a synopsis of what they were going to post and asked for comment. And they did not comment. They just decided to make a blog post. And I don't know if I want to read this. Okay, it's not that long. I'm going to read this verbatim. So I quote, "We'd like to take a moment to address an article published this morning about BioWare and Anthem's development. First and foremost, we wholeheartedly stand behind every current and former member of our team that worked on the game, including leadership. It takes a massive amount of effort, energy, and dedication to make any game, and making Anthem would not have been possible without every single one of their efforts. We chose not to comment or participate in this story because we felt there was an unfair focus on specific team members and leaders who did their absolute best to bring this totally new idea to fans. We didn't want to be part of something that was attempting to bring them down as individuals. We respect them all, and we built this game as a team. We put a great emphasis on our workplace culture in our studios. The health and well-being of our team members is something we take very seriously. We have built a new leadership team over the last couple of years, starting with Casey Hudson as our GM in 2017, which has helped us make big steps to improve the studio culture and our creative focus. We hear the criticisms that were raised by the people in the piece today, and we're looking at that alongside feedback that we receive in our internal team surveys. We put a lot of focus on better planning to avoid crunch time, and it was not a major topic of feedback in our internal postmortems. Making games, especially new IP, will always be one of the hardest entertainment challenges. We do everything we can to try and make it healthy and stress-free, but we also know there is always room to improve. As a studio and a team, we accept all criticisms that will come our way for the games we make, especially from our players. The creative process is often difficult. The struggles and challenges of making video games are very real. But the reward of putting something we created into the hands of our players is amazing. People in this industry put so much passion and energy into making something fun. We don't see the value in tearing down one another or in one another's work. We don't believe articles that do that are making our industry and craft better. Our full focus is on our players and continuing to make Anthem everything it can be for our community. Thank you to our fans for your support. We do what we do for you." And what a load of BS that whole thing is. This was garbage. The fact that this came out before the article was released showed they didn't even read it. You know? They didn't read the piece because clearly it mentions in here how it's targeting specific people. And yes, there are many BioWare developers and people in leadership mentioned by name, but the article does not ascribe blame to any particular one of them, ever.
Yeah, the article never mentions anyone like, oh, you know, this is the person responsible for this.
It doesn't say Casey Hudson is the reason this game didn't come out right.
It just mentions key players that either left or, you know, they're coming in and out.
It presents facts.
Yeah, exactly. It just lays down a timetable of how everything happened, a timeline.
Yeah.
And I mean, to me, honestly, when I read this article, at first I was okay with it because maybe because of PR reasons or legality reasons, you can't admit
fault.
You can't admit fault. Because of legality reasons or whatever the case may be. So I'm assuming they had lawyers go over this.
Yeah.
But the thing I didn't like is we don't see a value in tearing down one another or one another's work. We don't believe the articles that do make our industry and craft better. So I didn't like that. And the simple fact that we didn't get, we're sorry.
Yeah.
Like, you don't have to admit that what you did was wrong.
Exactly.
Just say, we're sorry.
That's all you need to say.
Or we apologize, or something of that nature. You're not really admitting fault. You're just saying, hey, we apologize, but we will and we will continue to thank you for your support.
Well, also, these last two sentences, or the second to last sentence, our full focus is on our players and continuing to make Anthem everything it can be for our community. That is a straight up lie.
Yeah.
Because Edmonton apparently is not working on this game anymore. That's not your full focus. You're just throwing this to your other team. You're like, from my perspective, I think they're abandoning this game. Like, that's what this feels like. And the fact that things are happening so slowly post launch, I don't think very many people at Austin are working on this game. Like, I think it's a skeleton crew.
What can they do? It's not their. They don't have.
No, and they have to make new content too.
Exactly.
Like, what is
another thing we didn't mention, guys? Is like when we say it's not that they're holding stuff. Like a lot of games, they either hold stuff back for DLC or anything,
which is what we thought was happening here. But
this game literally did not have anything. What we got is what we got.
That's what they were able to finish. Is what we received is what they were able to finish before release date.
So in my eyes, we were $60 beta testers.
Yeah. Yeah, so that element of it is really disingenuous, and I dislike the fact that they go at Jason Schreier like this, because he is the only person in this industry that writes articles like this.
Yes.
That does investigative journalism like this. This is impressive in any field of journalism. Sports, politics.
This was an impressive piece.
This is high quality journalism.
He should get some kind of award.
He should, absolutely. This dude needs to be recognized because he's putting work in that no one else in this industry. Like, he's putting the IGNs and the GameSpots of the world to shame by himself.
Yes.
Because all they do is write these puff pieces, and none of them are really doing things like this. You know, it's like, and he's getting us real information. This is really telling us. It's giving us information into the health of the studio, the health of the industry, where people are at. And, dude, this whole thing has let's get into this second one, because this is an internal email.
So that's the one I didn't read.
Yeah, this was an internal email. I'm not going to read this whole thing because it's actually pretty long.
Okay.
But the main crux of it was he directly mentions the Kotaku article and then the online discussion that happened from it. But he mentions that the issues with workplace culture and crunch and everything like that are big issues that they have a plan for that they want to address. And I think this was the more real of the two messages. I still think there's some BS in here, but this one felt like at least somewhat earnest and
it seemed
real.
kind of genuine.
This was directly from Casey Hudson himself too.
Yeah.
So I recommend people read this one as well, but I don't know. I just come away from this whole thing that BioWare is a company that, like, Dragon Age 4, to me, the fact that they're working on it makes a ton of sense, because it's a game in a series that they've already worked on in this engine, so they can take pre-existing work potentially and use some of it to make. And it's easier for them because they're probably, a lot of their current developers worked on that game and probably feel comfortable in that universe, you know. So I think it's easy for them to make Dragon Age 4, and I would assume internally they probably look at that game as an easy win, an easy game for them to make. Not easy in the sense of, like, it's going to take them a year, but easy in the sense that it's easier for them to make this than another new IP or something else, right?
Yeah.
Or another Mass Effect or something like that. And it's in a series that the last game was critically acclaimed, so people might be a little softer on it when it comes out. So it makes sense from a lot of angles that the next game is going to be Dragon Age 4. But do I trust them to make a good video game right now? No.
Absolutely not.
No. I don't know if this game's going to be good. It may be good in spite of them, but I don't know, man.
I mean, just like looking at the whole scope, I still regard Mass Effect 1 through 3, the trilogy, as my personal favorite trilogy of all time, because I can go back and revisit that every 5 years and still be amazed at the writing and stuff like that, and the gameplay and everything of that nature. Everything kind of came together with those games. Mm-hmm. But I'm not going to sit here and lie and say it doesn't kind of taint what I look at now.
Well, because those games were made under duress as well.
Exactly.
Mass Effects 2 and 3 were made very quickly in really short time frames. It's just that they were focused as a studio.
Yeah, exactly.
And they had one vision, and they executed that vision, right?
Exactly, yep. But they were made under this crunch BioWare magic time.
Yes, they were.
and it makes me feel so bad that
we've supported that for years.
Yeah, exactly.
All of us have.
Yeah.
And the issue with this situation too is like, what do we do as gamers? Do we not support BioWare monetarily? I mean, that could end up in them getting closed, which is not good. But do we support them monetarily? Because then that encourages them to continue to do this. I mean, I feel like what's happened is the best thing that could have happened. This getting publicly...
I am so glad this got publicized.
100%. I'm 100% behind that. Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what to say, because it's like, when I read articles, I mean, I guess I can talk about like the aftermath behind this, like the community, how it was.
Yes.
And how you said everyone was kind of divisive. There is either one side that blamed EA or one side that didn't blame EA. It was a amount of people that just gave BioWare the mantle. They're like, hey, you guys didn't do nothing wrong. It's all EA's fault. We support you 100%. And
I don't know how you got that out of this article.
Exactly. Because it kind of negates all the people that had the stress casualties.
Yeah.
All the people that were just under crunch time and things of that nature. You just negated all of that.
Pure disrespect to those people.
Yeah. And the simple fact that you said, oh, we're going to support you no matter what, you're basically, I mean, this is a total...
You're validating the treatment of their workers.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's terrible. I mean, now granted, someone can counter that and be like, well, you guys support CD Projekt Red with their bad, terrible...
No, that stuff is... We'll talk about them at some point in the future.
Yeah,
they're funny because they've gone so far under the radar after their stuff got exposed.
And I think this will kind of get them exposed
and
now.
It brings some more visibility to their practices, because they're not a great company either.
Yeah,
it's just that their games are still high quality.
Exactly.
So once their game quality deteriorates along with the poor treatment of workers, articles like this are going to come out about them too.
Yep.
And it's. I think the interesting thing that's come out of this for me is that we talked about unions a few weeks ago.
I was just about to say that, yeah.
And my viewpoint on this is starting to turn, because I don't like unions, but, dude...
Something needs to happen.
Something's got to happen here, because what other option do these people have? You know?
It's ridiculous.
Us exposing this in public outcry is not changing things for these people.
And I mean, you guys can just say, "Oh, it's stress," but stress can literally kill you.
Oh my god, yeah, dude. I mean, I'm speaking from personal experience. Stress is an extreme demotivator for me, and an extreme anxiety inducer for me. And I have pretty bad anxiety a lot of the time. And when you're in that headspace, it can cause depression. It can cause mood swings.
Yeah.
It can cause your apathy, not wanting to do anything, not wanting to work. It's a bad place to be, and when you're in that 24/7, the way it sounds like a lot of these people were, I can understand why you mentally break down and you have to leave work for 3 months, 6 months at a time. I would too, dude. Like, I
can
can't
only
even imagine that.
Yeah, I can only imagine trying to find a office inside our building where
you just want to cry for like 5 minutes by yourself.
To me, that's ridiculous.
That's horrifying.
And they knew it was going on. And to me, I don't think this is the only game this happened to. I think this is a game where all that work, the blood, sweat, and tears, didn't produce anything. And that's why
7 years.
Exactly.
7 years. 7 years. 7 years. Dude, Naughty Dog made the entire Uncharted trilogy in that time frame. 7 years. 7 years. In those games,
that's ridiculous.
Those games, whether you think the gameplay is fun or not, are at least high quality video games.
They are.
7 years, and we are going to come away with this. BioWare, EA, us as gamers, the people who worked on this, we're coming away with nothing, because I think this game. I mean, frankly, I think this article was the death of Anthem. Whatever the case, like I think this game's going to limp along for a few months. Maybe 6 months, 9 months.
They're going to try to sweep it under the rug, but I don't think we should sweep this game under the rug.
Dude, I've been looking at the subreddit. I've been monitoring numbers of people online at any given time, and it's steadily going down. I think, and a lot of the people that are on there are even saying they haven't played the game in weeks. Like, it's just a community that's kind of there to just watch it unfold. At this point. A lot
of those people don't want the game to go. They're like, this game's going to go.
So, yeah, I just, like, dude, unless they can get content out like that, which it does not seem like they can, which we haven't heard very much about the content that's supposed to be dropping this month, and we're already a third of the way into the month. I mean, people are hoping there's a live stream this week, but
another thing,
what if there isn't, dude? You know, it's like, I don't know, man.
Another thing that's really disappointing. So, 2 points, kind of on both sides of the spectrum, but 2 points here. So, one, they did not play their game. Mm-hmm. They didn't test it at all.
They said they literally didn't have time to.
They didn't have time to. So when you saw the streams, I think the first stream that we saw, that 4-hour stream, that probably was their first time playing the game.
Yeah.
And that's to me, that's just not.
That's nuts.
That's not good.
That's nuts.
Another thing is, from neither one of these articles, or not articles, but pieces that BioWare have released in response to this article, unfortunately, not only did we not get our "I'm sorry" or "We're sorry" apologize to our workers, because they didn't apologize. Don't apologize to me. Apologize to your workers.
Yeah, I'm not important.
Yeah,
really.
I'm just a consumer, but apologize to your workers for doing this. And I know that's probably like they don't want to admit liability or something like that. But sometimes you got to roll the punches just to let people know that you're still on their side. Let workers know that, hey, we still do care about you. Another thing is, however, you just said, they're going to abandon this game. I mean, unfortunately, they're not going to give the Final Fantasy 14 a retreatment.
I don't think so.
And to me, this game has a lot of potential.
But is it even worth it for them to give it that treatment?
I think it is.
Yeah.
I think this is one of those games where you actually have to suck it up and be like, all right, my reputation is more important than the money.
Yeah.
Because this is even if Dragon Age 4 comes out, right? I mean, and it's
a lot of people aren't going to buy it.
Yeah, it's a 9 out of 10, you know. People are going to still look at him like, man, how many stress casualties did it take to make this game?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. They're never going to let that go. And that's going to be on a lot of people's minds for a very long time.
Well, the reason why I think, because gamers, as we've talked about before, are very fickle. If BioWare, after Andromeda, if Anthem had come out and it was the best game we've all ever played, right? People would have forgiven them for Andromeda. But you don't get to follow up Andromeda with Anthem and then expect people to come back to you after that. I think once you've burned people a couple times like this, people permanently stay away. You know, they'll go elsewhere because, dude, the reality is the BioWare, the one that people think of that we all
is not there
reminisce about. Well, they're not there anymore. The reality is, CD Projekt Red is kind of that company now.
Yeah.
And they've taken over that, you know, third-person RPG mantle, you know?
Yeah.
They're the ones who do that now. And that's just how it goes. I think the expectation that a company stays the same for 20 years and makes the same kind of games for 20 years and stays in the same franchises for 20 years, it's kind of a ridiculous idea. You know, and this is why some of Sony studios are healthy, because they don't do this.
Yes.
Right? Naughty Dog made 3 Uncharted games, and then they made a 4th, which they didn't even want to make, by the way. And that's going to be that's the end of it for Uncharted. They're never making another Uncharted game. Like, Naughty Dog is never going to make another Uncharted game.
What did Naughty Dog do before they made Uncharted?
They made Jak and Daxter.
And what did they do before that?
Crash, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, completely different games.
Exactly.
Right, 20 years, right?
Yeah.
And then they made The Last of Us, and they're making The Last of Us 2 right now. And after The Last of Us 2, we have no idea what their future holds. I imagine they're going to go in a completely different direction.
And that's cool to me.
And that's great. That's exactly what needs to happen. That's why that studio maintains their high bar of quality, because their people are fulfilled and want to stay there because they're creatively working on different projects, right?
And that was, not to cut you off, but that was another thing wrong with this project as well.
Yeah,
people were like, during their pre-production phase, people were like, they were listening to the story in meetings, and they're like, this is Dragon Age in space. We already made this game. It's called Mass Effect. Can we make something else different? Can we try something different now?
Yeah.
And I think that's a valid criticism. Yeah. Let's try something different. Let's get our creative juices flowing. Yeah. We got young blood in here. Let's see what they got. You know.
Well, the thing is with this, with a game, with any company too, people have to be behind the mission, right?
Exactly.
if people don't like the direction that Anthem's going in, what is their incentive to work on Anthem? Obviously for a paycheck, but it's like that's not fulfilling you creatively.
Exactly.
Right? And that's the reason you have this job. If you're going to go work for money, you could go do that elsewhere.
Exactly.
Right? And probably be way more effective at your job. But like they need to believe in what the game is, and if people internally are like, we don't like where the story is going because it's too similar to what we've done in the past, that's a legitimate complaint that I think the company should take on, right? Like the original incarnation of this game that they were originally making with that tiny team in 2012, where it sounded like the game was going to be like really brutal, and the world of Anthem was like, Bastion was supposed to be this like Bermuda Triangle of the universe, is what it was described as.
Yeah.
Where tons of different races all had like ships that just kind of got lost into this planet, and they fell into the surface, and a lot of them just died because it was so hard to live there. And like humans had gotten caught there before, and they all died, but then eventually they created javelin technology, which allowed them to survive.
Yeah.
Like they created javelin technology outside of the planet, and the people that got caught in there eventually had it, and the javelins kind of allowed them to survive at a really base level. They weren't even that powerful, though. Not the way Anthem is now, where you're like this all-powerful, unkillable beast, you know?
Exactly.
Like the javelins barely allowed you to survive on this planet. That sounds way more interesting than what we got.
Yes.
You know? Even though what we got had pieces of interesting lore in there, it is very similar to what they've done before, though.
Yeah, it is.
Admittedly. So, it's just, I don't know.
And that's what's kind of unfortunate. You can't have a team behind you, like you said, that just... They're like, okay, well, we make another Dragon Age. And that's another reason why I don't feel like, yeah, you guys are working on Dragon Age 4, but I just don't feel like your team's going to be behind it. Because unless you have people that are like, they really like Dragon Age, that are working on it, if you get the same people, these people are like, we're making another Dragon Age?
It may be possible, though, that morale is so low that working on Dragon Age is like riding a bike for them.
Okay,
know?
They just need something.
They just need something to kind of make them feel comfortable riding a bike again.
That's true.
You know?
I can understand that.
So that's kind of my point about Dragon Age, is that it makes a lot of sense for them to go there next. Right?
Okay.
So we'll see. Hopefully they're focused and they don't, F around for 3 years in pre-production like they did with this
I don't
game.
think that's happening.
I don't think that'll happen.
I think EA
again.
is well under. They got the microscope.
They definitely have. They better have the microscope on BioWare. Yeah. I would. I mean, dude.
So that's another thing. Like, as far as like, we can't say EA didn't can't have any blame. I think we touched on it earlier, but as a CEO or anything of that nature, I just want from your opinion, how would you feel if you gave a company 7 years, even someone on your team, 7 years to make a product, and 6 years, 6.5 years, 5.5 years into it, you're like, wait, what happened?
Well, dude, this is where them not being gamers actually probably helps BioWare not look as bad to them, because they don't understand how colossal of a failure that Anthem actually is.
Yeah.
From a gameplay standpoint. Because, dude, if it were me, if I were the CEO of EA, and Anthem came out, and then this story came out, and I went and talked to them and got the truth out of them and really like understood what happened, I would be beyond mortified that my company put hundreds of millions of dollars into years of development of this game, and this is all that was able to be shown for it. I'd want people's heads. Frankly, that's what I would want, because, dude, this is literally a joke. The idea that a company can just spend 7 years, 6 years, the seventh year being the productive year, 6 years, literally doing nothing. Basically, like, yes, they were working, but nothing was coming of it. Like, nothing productive was actually coming out of it. That is insane. As I said before, that is insane. That is such a waste of money that is just, like, that part of it disgusts me almost as much as the crunch part of it, the way they were treating their workers. Like, that is a gross mismanagement of funds. Like, dude, you should have just donated that money to charity or something.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, straight up. Like, because that would have been a way better use of that money than what happened here. Like, that's a part of this story that I think that not many people are talking about.
Exactly.
I don't think people think about it from that monetary, financial perspective, but that part of it really grosses me out as well, that a company could be allowed to do this, and the fact that no heads are going to roll because of that is very strange to me. It's extremely weird to me. Like,
that's the part I don't like about this. We had all these stress casualties. Everyone suffered except for the leadership at BioWare.
Yeah.
They still have their jobs. No one's going to be like, hey, your pay cut, this is slashed or something.
Taking a pay cut, something along those lines.
We have heard no type of maybe there are repercussions. They just keeping the hush hush right now internally, which is understandable and well within their rights as a corporation.
100%.
But I feel like, especially since EA is trying to get back on the customer. Well, I don't know if they ever were, but trying to get back on the customer's good side, the consumer's good side. I feel like they need to release some kind of statement. I just feel like this is not where it's at. Like, these two statements that came out, one that was intern that got leaked, and then the one that actually got put out. Well, I think EA needs to say something.
That's what I was just about to say. That if I were EA, I would be making a statement as well, being like, this situation is unacceptable. Like, I think this is the thing. EA understands their place in the market. They realize that people hate their guts, and a lot of people blame them for this. They know that. So I think they're being silent on purpose, because if they came out and said, this situation in BioWare is unacceptable, the working situation, the way this game was managed, the state this game came in, all of it is unacceptable. We as EA do not accept these standards. This is not what we want to put out. This is not the quality of game we want to put out, and changes will be coming to BioWare. I think people would be extremely upset, because that is what people fear about EA, right? That they're going to come in and invade and put their culture in. I think I think that's the reason why I don't think that statement will come from EA, because I think they're too self-aware to put that kind of statement out. But I think if you say it in the right way, I think it's acceptable, because from my point of view, them coming in and making changes is absolutely justified. Yeah. And honestly, probably should happen.
I mean, because they shut down studios for way less than this.
100%, dude. They shut down Visceral because they were doing the same thing. It's just that Visceral's not as big as BioWare and didn't have another game in the works. Yeah. You know, and didn't have other revenue streams like you know, Star Wars: The Old Republic, right? So I just it's a weird situation. I would love to see EA come out and say something, and actually I would like to see them get involved, because from my perspective, reading this article, it sounds to me like the only reason this game is even in the state it is in is because they got involved. They were like, look, this game's coming out 2019, February 2019. That's it. We're not pushing it back anymore.
And that's the part that was really irritating me on like the subreddits and some other forums. People were blaming EA for giving them a deadline. Well, they knew the game was going to be like this. They gave them 7 years. Yeah. I would tell you, hey, you gotta do something. Yeah. I gave you X amount of money. I gave you 6 years. Yeah. Something needs to happen.
That's my point about the gross mismanagement of funds. Like, dude, from EA's perspective, we're absolutely justified. They could have said it's coming out fall 2018, and that would have been justified. The fact that they gave them till February actually makes EA look better to me. Like, it like, they didn't want the game to be a steaming pile of crap, but it's like after a certain point of time, after 7 years, dude, you have to release something.
Yeah, we have investors. We have shareholders.
Yeah, exactly. It's like they're responsible to them, but at the same time, they're also responsible to us too. It's like they want to release something, you know.
And another thing I just thought about it now, maybe EA. This could be me just thinking too well of the situation. Yeah. But too human of the situation, I should say. Yeah. But maybe they are like they didn't lay down the heavy hand of shutting studios down, because they're like, yeah, we were at fault too because we were too lenient on them.
Yeah, we were a little too hands off. Yeah. Yeah, and maybe, well, dude, that's the thing. I think, to me, this should have happened in this situation. If they had come in year 3 or 4 and seen that there's no deliverables, there's no levels, there's no story cutscenes yet, there's nothing to show for the work that's been done. I mean, straight up, like, dude, I would have been like, to me, this story to me reads like this game should have been canceled.
Yes.
At 3 years in.
Yes.
Like, it should have been canceled, or 4 years in, because nobody knew what they wanted to do from a leadership standpoint. It just seemed like there was no direction. That indicates to me that you should just let it go and start over with something else. But that's what a lot of studios do all the time. Games get canceled all the time that are even further along than this ever was, right? Like,
and that's another thing. Like, or another thing I should say is, at the beginning of it, maybe I think they said 2 years into the pre-production, people didn't even know. It was locked. Like, it was a password, wikied. You couldn't even look at it.
Yeah. It was a secret, even within BioWare,
Yeah, and I just don't think that's... I mean, I know every company has, like, a secret division where they're trying to do stuff, but if a game this massive's coming out, like, I feel like you need to be really, like, this is what we're doing. You need to be really transparent on, hey, all right, so we've been working on this a year. I can give it a year.
Yeah.
Hey, this is what we've been trying to do for last year. I know you guys been seeing, like, a little...
Yeah, once you're out of pre-production.
Yeah. But that should only last for, like, a year.
That's what I'm saying, yeah.
And, because I wouldn't want to be working for a company and they're just like, okay, we known about this for like 5 years, but we're shutting down. I'm like, wait. You guys knew about this for 5 years and didn't tell us until now?
Yeah.
Like, I wouldn't know now. Or, we're doing this massive upgrade, so start handling it. And it's like, wait, we didn't even have time to prepare for this.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think this article hits a lot of different people in a lot of different ways because we all can relate to things
that have happened in this. Yeah, for sure. I think that, like, the crunch part of it I can't personally relate to, but the incompetence in meetings I can absolutely relate to.
Yeah.
Like that, as I said, I've seen that before, and it's something really annoying to behold when you're part of the meeting, because you come out of the meeting and you're confused. And then you don't know what you're supposed to do as a result of the meeting, and then you're just mad that somebody wasted an hour and a half of your day on something that you took nothing out of.
Exactly.
You know?
And just coming from the crunch side of it, I've never, like you said, experienced the crunch, but being in the environment of someone who has worked the crunch. My mother has worked 90 hours for a company that just laid stuff on them, or laid stuff on her. And me and my father and the rest of our family and our brothers, we saw that emotionally and mentally drain her. She wasn't a part of the family for 90 hours of the week.
Yeah.
And how do you... Well,
the other time, too, she's, like, so tired.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying.
She's checked out, right?
She's checked out. So, and we can't disturb her because we know what she's doing is for us.
You don't want to. Yeah, you don't want to.
So, I can only imagine the families that were affected by this.
100%. Relationships, all sorts of things. Well, dude, it reminds me of, like, I know this is a poor comparison, but this is probably the best thing I have to draw off is when you procrastinate, like, a school paper or something, like a 30-page paper to the last day, and you spend like 24 hours straight working on it, and it comes out okay, but it's not as good as you could have done because, you did it all at the last minute, and you're super tired by the end, and you're literally just trying to type words. You know? But it reminds me of doing that, except that's your life 365 days a year. And that sounds
7 years.
Horrifying. Yeah, that sounds horrifying. Like, so... it's that part of it, dude. The crunch part of it is the ugliest part of this, no question. And that's the part of it that needs to change more than anything. The bungled money, the wasted 7 years of development, that's ugly as well, and that needs to change as well. But I think the priority needs to be the crunch part of it. Like, that's the thing that needs to be fixed more than anything. You should not be requiring your people to work more than 40 or 50 hours a week. And if you do require more than 40 hours, they should be paid overtime. I don't give a crap about anything, about any laws that allow you to not pay them, about them being salaried, whatever. It's garbage. It's all garbage. You work more than 40 hours, you should be paid time and a half, straight up.
I agree with that.
That should be a law. That should straight up be a law. Like, I don't care what your political viewpoint is. That's garbage. I've worked overtime before, and not being paid for overtime, I fortunately do get paid time and a half for overtime. If I did not,
I
would want to kill myself.
Yeah, because I haven't worked a job like that before. But
I recently did a 60-hour week back in like December for our company, and it was like a 65-hour week, and I was dead at the end of it. Like, I wanted to just fall over and sleep for 3 days straight. You know, imagine doing that for 7 straight years, right? But if I hadn't gotten paid time and a half for the extra 25 hours, like, I don't even imagine where my head would have been. Like, I would have hated my company for that, you know?
See, and that was the thing, like, that's why this kind of, like, related to me, or not to me, but, like, my mom, she was a salary based. Yeah. But she was working 90 hours, so she didn't
That's
see
ridiculous.
Yeah. And,
that's insane.
And, like, that's why when I was reading this, it instantly went to her, because we were just young. I was young at the time, but I can only imagine, like, how my father was feeling, like he didn't have his wife around or nothing like that.
I would have hated her company if I were him.
He did hate it. He's like, it was to the point where he wanted her to quit her job. She was like, where am I going to, because this was like during the recession and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So she was like, where am I going to find other, he's like, listen, I'll work 3 jobs just to make up what you lost, but just quit it. At this point, because we need you. Like, I need you here. Not just the kids, but me, your spouse. Yeah. So, like, BioWare forcing these people to be like, oh, BioWare Magic, how you going to go home and tell your wife or your husband or your life partner, hey, BioWare Magic, you know, we can get through it. He or she will probably slap the shit out of you. Like, I mean, and it's not out of, like anger at you, but it's because of the company that you're working for, and it's like they're going to make you choose between either the company, either it's us or the company, and I imagine that's why a lot of people just left. Yeah,
they had to for their own personal lives, right? Yeah. Right? And dude, that's my point. Is like, if you're going to put people through that, at the very least you can do is pay them for their time. Yes, that's the very, very minimum you can do. Yeah. The other thing you can do for them is not make them work 90 hours. That's the real thing you can do for them. But
and I mean, EA's been making waves. I mean, I think this is going to be another industry changer that was
I hope so.
The cause of EA, because, you know, first we had the loot box controversy. Now we have this, but I think we're not going to see this on our sides. It's mainly going to be just like on the internal in other companies.
We'll see it though. The thing is we will eventually see it. Probably in the quality of the games we get. Yeah. They may take longer to make. Yes. I'm 100% fine with that, dude. If it takes a year or 2 longer for these games to come out, but they're better games because of it, because their people are being treated properly and they only work 40 hours a week, I'm 100% fine with that. Yeah. Like, 100% fine with that. So I think that's kind of the reality, is if it was mandated that they had to be paid overtime, and this is something that unions could probably help with. Yeah. If it was mandated that all these people had to be paid overtime, I think what would happen is nobody would work overtime, and then these companies would probably hire more staff as a result to make up the difference of the time, and the games would come out at the same pace, but we probably get better games because everybody's at their is in their best headspace.
Yeah, and if the game costs $10 more, okay, whatever, I gotta pay $7.
I pay $20 more, $80. Yeah, dude, I think $80 is what's going to be the next base price point. I am fine with that.
As long as the workers are getting that extra $20 worth from that, and the quality of the games, I'm really for that.
And also, as long as the quality of the games meets that price, yes, then I'm fine with it, right? Yeah. If I get The Witcher 3, I'm willing to pay $80 for that. If I get Anthem, I'm not willing to pay $80 for that. Exactly. You know, so that's the other side of it. Is I think we need to explore that scale more. So. I don't know. I don't have a whole lot else to say. This whole situation is exhausting. This may be the last time we talk about Anthem, because, dude, we have talked about Anthem every week since, like, a week or 2 before it came out.
Well, yeah, this is what we were waiting for. Yeah. Every time we talked about it, I was like, I need some kind of
It came much sooner than we thought it would.
Yeah, I didn't think it's going to come out for another year. But
I agreed, but I think Jason Schreier... he tweeted a lot of things about this game that kind of tipped me off that he was working on something behind the scenes, because he was just like express how astounded he is at how bad this game is. Yeah, and I'm just like,
because he's not one to like really downplay games.
No, and I'm like, yeah, man, you're working on something behind the scenes. I know you are. Yeah. So yeah, he was, and here it is. As I said, read this article. If you care anything at all about BioWare, EA, Anthem, do yourself a favor, read this article. It is excellently written, beautifully paced. It's broken down like a book would be. There's sections of it. It's fantastic. This is actually an exact kind of preview to, or not a preview, but I guess a experience of the way his book was, Blood, Sweat, and Pixels. He's writing a second book as well, and it's probably going to be in the same style. So I suggest you support him, because I want more like this. I want more people other than him to be doing articles like this as well. I don't want him to become the sole person that does this. But, dude, the thing is that he has, at this point, he has clout, in gaming. Like, the fact that BioWare prepared a statement for his article before it even came out shows how afraid of him they are, that they feel the need to counter him in some way, So, yeah. I don't know. Any other thoughts on it?
No. I just read a comment, and I'm just amazed by how fanboys are.
What'd they say?
I just read like a little short excerpt right now. This is under the BioWare boss addresses studio issues, vowed to continue working to solve them. So the comment reads, I think there's an issue here that is probably on BioWare's mind. Is definitely one mind of the fans like me who are fellow game journalists. Is this you scared BioWare for their problems in Anthem, but this isn't unique to BioWare. Every time I see people talk about problems they have as a studio, the crunch and the desperation felt by employees, all I can think is, how is it that gamers don't understand all of this? That this is how a studio works. That every single game that we play has been produced by Copious, Copious Blood, Sweat, and Tears. Every online game has problems on launch. That even a title like Diablo 3 took over a year. Even a title like Diablo 3 took over a year to become great. You tear down BioWare, and this could be the end for them. But they're not the only studio with these problems. If you're doing this, be fair about it. Report on Rockstar for the same thing. Report on Bethesda, on Blizzard. Don't just destroy BioWare while other AAA studios get to sit back and breathe a sigh of relief and say, at least they aren't looking at us. He quoted that. Revealing the pain that employees of the studio felt while creating this game is a good thing. I applaud you for your intentions, but please be fair about it. If you want to do this, then do this right. The problem is systematic, persuasive, and industry-wide. It's not only BioWare. If you tear them down, you must tear down others as well. Which is interesting enough, Jason Schreier linked all the articles he talked about with other companies.
100%. I was literally about to say that. That this guy has written articles about all of those companies.
Yeah.
I mean, like, seriously, he's done Rockstar.
Yeah.
He did a Rockstar recently.
Yeah, he talked about Rockstar, the crunch of Rockstar, how...
After the 100-hour work week comment.
It was crazy.
He did that article after that.
He talks about, which is a game I play a lot and I like, Riot Games and the sexism within that.
Yes.
And how they're changing because of this article.
Yeah.
This came out, like, some of their CEO had to kind of like step away from the board meetings for a minute because they didn't think they were going to keep him around because of this sexism that was going on. So I mean, he talks about Activision, cutting people and things of that nature. So it's not like he's just doing this for clout, even though he's gaining clout from it.
Dude, this guy is as fair as anybody else. Yeah, anybody is.
And he genuinely cares about this industry and developers.
Yep. So, yeah, he pushes for the unionization thing more than anybody.
Yeah.
Like, I see him on Twitter all the time arguing with people about this. So, dude, going at him about it is silly. And the rest of the comment, too, I kind of want to dissect real quick. Like, dude, I understand that BioWare might be a studio that you have personal investment in, but that should be even more reason why you want this stuff exposed.
Exactly.
You're talking about people tearing down BioWare. Dude, if BioWare was going to get torn down, it would be gone already. Like, EA would close it, just to save face, right? To get it out of their hair, but they're not. So BioWare is going to stick around. And if you want them to improve as a studio, these things need to get exposed. If they get kept under the rug, nothing's going to come of it. Dude, nothing would have happened unless this article was written and published. Those statements wouldn't have come out. They wouldn't have sent anything to an internal email. They would have just kept going on like business as usual, right?
Yeah.
Now they're actually endeavoring to make change
because
within their
they
studio.
made money off this game. They made a lot of money off this game.
100% they did. Yeah.
So I mean,
yeah, and wanting other studios to get exposed. I mean, yes, they should get exposed, but the thing is, they are getting exposed.
Yes,
Jason Schreier is exposing them. They're exposing themselves at times with like Rockstar as an example, with the bragging about 100-hour work weeks or whatever. Like, it's yes, we know it's prevalent. Like, we're not idiots.
Yeah.
Most of us know that this is prevalent. That's why these articles need to be written and published so that more people know about this. And
I mean, we can
talk
say that about
it.
everything. Like
the NFL, like the NFL, for instance. Like, dude, like they're not. That is a place that is considerably toxic with certain certain things, like the masculinity within the locker room, the way they treat women and things like that, and the way the way the owners are towards their players and things like that.
Exactly.
Like, dude, it happens in all these industries. All of this needs to be reported on.
Yeah, like
we shouldn't protect one entity just because we like them.
Exactly.
You know?
Like, I mean, I'm pretty sure he typed this on his phone, and that phone was probably made. It was an iPhone
In
somewhere.
a sweatshop.
Yeah, in China. And you remember that huge article about Apple buildings having safety nets for people trying to commit suicide in their factories. So
it's a disingenuous comment.
Yeah, it is. And that's the type of stuff that I think gamers need to be very aware of before they
need to
speak.
be more thoughtful.
Yeah. They and I don't like to generalize this, but a lot of us do live in this bubble, and they don't look at the whole thing. And I'm pretty sure a lot of people didn't look at it from the perspectives that me and you did, as far as, like, you know, families and how developer families
and the financial ramifications.
Exactly. They're just looking at it as, my game sucked. Why did my game suck?
Yeah.
Well, there's
more to it than
that. It's a lot more. It's an encompassing thing, but
and that's that I hope if you listen to this show, that's what you take away from this, is that's what this podcast is about. We go into these things like, this is what we try to dissect the whole thing. That's why some of our episodes are overly long sometimes.
Yeah.
Because we really want to go into everything, though, because it's all relevant. You know, all of it's relevant, and that's what I want to discuss with people.
Yeah,
you know?
I don't feel like enough people touch.
Yeah, and I want to spread this kind of mentality. Is like, I want people to look at it as a whole picture, not just their one piece.
Yeah,
you know, because it has a cascading effect. There's a ripple effect to these things. Like this happening, I think this probably sent waves through the industry.
That's what I was just about to say. I think a lot of people probably, like Ubisoft and other people, probably have mandates of like, hey, if you guys have stress, we probably need to work on this, or we probably need to do this, and that, and the third.
I'm sure changes are happening industry-wide just based on this article coming out.
Yep.
So that in and of itself is good, and I think the groundswell for unions, however I feel about unions, I think it's positive that it could bring positive change. So, I don't know. That's about it. That's, I think, as far as we need to go.
Yeah.
So that's going to be it for this week, guys. If you've listened this far, if you liked the episode, please like the episode. Review the episode on whatever you listen to it on. Share it with your friends, as we said before. If you'd like to interact with us, I am at ThunderNut01 on Twitter. Montrell is at iTrap4 the Hokage, the number 4, not the word. And then the podcast is at The Player's Take. If you'd like to send us a question on anything Anthem related that we talked about this week or any other topic, please send that to theplayerstake01 at gmail.com. Next week, I think we're going to be talking about a Nintendo Direct, man.
Yeah,
that's what it sounds like. I hope so. That's exciting. That is exciting. Also, we may be having a guest on in the next week or two.
Oh, yeah.
Look forward to that as well. So, that's going to be it for this one, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. We'll see you on the next one. All right. Bye, guys.